called out?
I didn't look too much. That's why I was saying that basically everybody's recommending that 320, 480, 600, 760, 900, and 1200. And I was looking at that versus what that guy collected, all those devices, and they were not jiving as well. That's why I kind of ended up doing my own little thing. So.
Now they mentioned that the person who was speaking about responsive at WordCamp, she mentioned, and she went real quick. She was talking about the 960 grid system. But she said that's sort of dated. You start looking elsewhere. Do you understand why? Do you know anything about 960?
The 960, it's pretty much basically everybody in print uses a grid type of system. Everybody in the web, at least in the beginning of the web, was just throwing stuff out there and everything was looking like crap design-wise. So basically, that's what it is. Right, it still is. And by using 960, you can actually nicely lay out your stuff and all that. And I'm not sure how this would affect, but if you design it nicely from day one, and if you think you don't need 960 as a grid, you can create your own grid however you want. 960 is just something that worked for a lot of people, and everybody jumped for it.
Okay.
It's just a design.
There is sort of a maximum width that makes things readable. So if you have large blocks of text, there's a reason why newspapers don't start at the left side of the paper and go all the way across. They have columns because it's easier for the eye to scan a more narrow column. So even though you have the ability to go, 2,000 pixels wide, you still probably want to do kind of like what they're doing here, and breaking it up into columns or something along those lines. So 960 might still make sense as sort of a maximum width if you wanted to do it that way and then break it down.
Yeah, no, definitely using a grid, it's a good idea.
She talked about 960, but then she actually brought up a graphic that was very similar to your 3D model that was showing how things related.
Right. Well, 960 probably is not going to work on those devices because they have such a weird width and just like, and everybody's creating their own device and their own screen resolution. It's just a mess.
Is there a way to cope with YouTube or Vimeo embeds through media queries?
I'm not sure.
Okay. The same thing with CSS. It's just an iframe or an object tab. You can make the width dynamic based on screen resolution.
You can load the image first, click the image, then have the YouTube video below, like swap it.
Gotcha.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a hacky.
Wait, so Brandon, you're saying that you can dynamically resize an iframe through CSS?
You can, yeah. No.
Oh, okay.
You definitely do
You can't dynamically resize its contents. You can dynamically resize the iframe.
You're just getting a video. Video size.
So
you mentioned at the beginning that normally when you put in images, you would put a height and a width, but in the system you don't.
you would not, when you add your image, right? When you say image source equals something with height, you remove the width and height. You don't put them in there. You just put image source and that's it. Or alt tag or whatever other tags you need. Just don't put the width and the height. And then everything else is gonna be kind of like driven by the divs.
Yeah. But the problem with that is you're still loading the full size image.
Exactly.
So if you're on a mobile device and you don't have a high speed or whatever, it's gonna.
That's what I was talking about in the beginning. Because if you have a 1024 image, then you're gonna display it on a 480 width. And you're still loading a 1024 image.
Yeah. I mean, in older PCs and IE, it looks like crap, and it slows down the browser rendering time too when you don't put in with the 9.
Right, that's why they've kind of created all this. I don't remember exactly the name of it, but there are a couple of JavaScript libraries out there that allow you to kind of like figure out what the browser is and automatically change those images and give all that proper stuff.
I think you can do that with the media queries actually. If you put in your, say you max device width 640 or whatever it is, you can actually use a background image and you can put a different background image than the ones you had in your original file.
That's something to try. I haven't tried it.
You can use it for everything. Right.
Yeah, concept.
So for the end user, the theme actually works different in the media library when they go to, you're taking a novice and you're having them insert images into a post. The WordPress admin is different on these themes?
No,
It's
no,
automatically been
you
set
don't
on
even
the
see, you don't even see any of this. This is all coded in the backend and you don't even see it. It just,
Are you worrying about that it's
But
putting
normally
it's
they-
putting in
they-
the height and width
Yeah,
tags
normally
within there?
that's what it does.
Well, you'd have to
Oh.
strip that out and
Yeah.
make like
I
a
guess so.
yeah.
It's not a big idea.
So it's not really,
Well, if you have like overflow hidden to everything on there, then it just you won't see the rest of the image. But yeah, I don't, there's probably not.
I haven't played with these on WordPress. Funny enough, that website is just hand-coded static HTML.
Oh.
I haven't got a WordPress thing yet.
Hit that other button. Hit that other button.
Oh, no.
Get the hooks.
That's awesome.
It was already out there. I knew about it.
I wasn't saying anything, I was trying to keep you red, bro.
Okay. So any other questions?
What about the sidebar when you're pushing the sidebars or multiple sidebars down below the content? How is that like visual? I mean, I'm not like a big, UI person, but that kind of sucks, doesn't it? Because it's
It
pushing
kind of.
everything below. I mean, yeah, the reason why it's on the side is because you want it to be
Yeah,
available to the user.
Right, it's exactly.
At
It's
some
true.
point.
So what you're also, no, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here a little bit. But like, what would you do? I mean, what's your other options? Is it to have it slide out like a drawer on the side, or I mean, what's your,
Yeah, but
how would you even do that with CSS3?
You could probably add a lot of JavaScript to start playing with animation and doing all that stuff, but is it worth?
I've been playing around with some of this, and I've been seeing how, everything goes down to the bottom, and I'm just like, well, no one's ever gonna see my sidebar at that point then.
I think you really need to ask if you really need to use media queries in the first place. I think people, just because it's the newest thing, a lot of people are going crazy with them. And a lot of times the site looks just fine on an iPhone and iPad with no media queries.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if you do all this stuff, it makes it worse. So
I mean, I have to say,
It's a lot more work.
I'm looking
Yeah,
at
it
a
is.
bunch of StudioPress Genesis sites that I've built on my iPhone and iPads and things, and yeah, it gets smaller, but the whole point of the iPhone is to do this and expand any part that you want to look at. I mean, they're holding together. They're not
Right,
falling
but that's the
apart.
iPhone and the iPad.
Yeah.
You have
The Droid, does it fall apart on the Droid?
The other thing you have to do is you really have to look at what the people who visit your site are using, because it's going to be different for everyone. You know, some people have a lot of people, mobile users.
They're using IE6 on a BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Show me.
No, an iPack.
Nice.
They're using Newton. This Newton sucks.
this is one simple way to actually make your website accessible for the mobile devices. That's all there is. It's not a silver bullet that's going to solve all the mobile problems. No, it's not. Like,
Yeah, this is a lot better. I mean, Scott and I had a really good discussion about this yesterday, but I think the responsive stuff is a hell of a lot better solution than WP Touch.
Yeah.
A million times.
Yeah, I think there's different solutions for different things. I am one of those people who, when people ask me what they should do for their mobile site, and they start designing a mobile theme, the first thing I tell them is, make sure you include a link that says show desktop version.
right.
Because 99% of the time, that's what I want to see on my iPhone or anywhere else. The only site that I can think of off the top of my head that actually does it well is Ars Technica, which is a news tech blog kind of thing. And their mobile version it's just a single column of their content with excerpts. So they get rid of their sidebar where there's a bunch of advertising. They get rid of their banner where there's a bunch of extra stuff. But if you view this on mobile, and I don't know that it's not media queries,
No.
but their mobile version of this could be done with media queries just as easily. And it's fully usable. But that's because of the nature of the site. So you've got to consider what usability you're trying to achieve on your site. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to make my site shrink. That may be completely the wrong solution. The right solution might be to make your user zoom their screen. So.
And another big thing to keep in mind is a lot of people have the tendency, oh yeah, I don't want to show all the images. I want to show just the text, or I don't want to show this sidebar. people might have actually specifically looked on the desktop version and saw that image, and then they're in the car and they want to show somebody else that image, and they go to the website and they're like, oh, this is different. I don't know where everything was, you know. You don't want to create that. You don't want to create that impression. So you definitely gotta think through what you're doing when you're using all these. So, any more questions?
Can you post all these links to the Facebook group?
Yeah, I can.
Put them on multi-site.
Make them responsive.
A lot of them are already in Google Docs.
Yeah,
Cool.
just check them out.
It's not.
16541.
Anton, that was an awesome presentation.
You sure about that button choice?
I pressed the other one before. One and one.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a link on the bottom of there.
Pizza is on its way. It should be here in about
You don't even have to
5-10
Google
minutes.
account.
So there's something we didn't put on the agenda, which I'm going to give the floor to Dave Cole for a minute. He's going to show something that we've been working on. So we've got just enough time to slot in that, and then the pizza should be here. So
Is it a dance number?
no, that's me. Thank you. Introduce yourself.
Hi, kids.
Hi, Dave. Hi, Dave. What's your name?
My name is Dave. Dave's not here, man. You'll find me at Hey Dave's Cool.
We cut the last part of that sentence.
I imagine you kill people too. You have a mustache and kitchen. I gotta do that.
Overheard.
Yeah. What's overheard at OCWP?
I'll start it.
I'm reconsidering our decision to make Alex a super admin. I think that was a bad decision on my part. Alex, you just lost your super admin privileges.
You have noob status.
No signal.
Need help?
Yeah, probably.
Mirroring on.
I got it.
Oh, it says PC. You've got a Mac. It won't work.
PC loaded.
That's what it's going to be.
You went to the wrong genius for it.
We get more cowbell?
You can't get one.
This is my new display monitor technology. Pretty revolutionary. Yeah. Oh, and for the record, Microsoft wants us all
Oh God.
to make web. Yeah, so that's their free t-shirt in action.
It doesn't say
That's
Azure or anything on there.
They were at the
Microsoft was in attendance at WordCamp. Very much so.
Wow.
They were one of the sponsors of WordCamp Vancouver.
Actually, last year, Microsoft got stuff on Microsoft.
Wow.
There you go. I've heard that more than once.
He goes, you guys don't want ISIS to die? We want it to die more.
All right, so I'm actually going to start with a little bit of the logo because I want to see what the feedback is.
Oh, they don't like.
Meet Daster. Nobody likes logo and So Daster is a little bit of a pet project that I've been working on for a few months now. Steve and Jeff got involved a little bit recently, and much to Kelly's chagrin. Sorry. And Daster's something a little bit different. Daster's something that we're really trying to re-envision what WordPress can be. There's a new web, and everywhere that you go, every conference that you go to, everybody's talking about, you know, Facebook, Twitter, the social web. There's Yelp, Google Plus. You know, social's happening. We've all gone through probably learning about Facebook comments. To add that, discuss has been discussed, and that's all great. That's creating some community, creating some feedback, creating a comment system. But Daster is trying to go really up to the next state that I think WordPress needs to be at. And so let me give you guys a quick peek. And many of you have already seen, you know, my website. When I go to SMMOC or OCWP, I'm a pretty big fan of, you know, trying to write synopses and summaries of the events. This is just a standard, normal, you know, Woo themes based website. But there's a lot of pretty cool stuff going on inside Daster. So, oh, and for the record, this is the first time Daster's ever been seen in the wild. So please bear with us.
And the sign of non-disclosure.
Yeah, you know, you're all now bound to
Circle of trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and you people on the internet with the thing.
Yeah.
So this is Daster Running. This is a full-blown Twitter client built into the WordPress administrative panel. There's a lot that you can do once you've embedded Twitter inside of WordPress, and we're starting to play around with it. I think with this iteration, we're actually doing a lot of really interesting things that go well beyond what you can do with the TweetDeck, what you can do with the Hootsuite. We're actually baking Twitter directly into WordPress and doing some pretty deep integration that I think you guys will really like. First things first, you know, again, it's a full-blown Twitter client. It works just as if, you know, I can get my latest tweets. We've also got the ability to do some interesting stuff with the data to make Twitter data more useful, especially for bloggers. One of the things that you'll see is in this space right here. This is, you know, our hot topics area, and I hope, yeah, you guys can see that pretty well. So what we're doing is, I don't care about global Twitter trends. I care about what my friends care about. So what we've done is we've created a way to view trending in people that I follow. And inversely, and it doesn't work very well just because it takes a ton of data to get good information, but we're playing around with trending in people who follow me. So now you're getting a sense of social data that's emerging not from, you know, the entire Twitterverse. I don't really care what happens, you know, right now nationally, and, you know, it's there, it's available, I can go look for it, which are not very useful things like Stephanie McMahon and Death Valley and jobs Drake had before becoming a rapper. This is not relevant to me, this is not relevant to my life. I don't need that kind of information. I want to know what's trending. So right now it's OCWP, what a surprise. Monday Night Football, some of you guys are having some concerns. Steve, we may have to talk about Tuesday, OCWP. You know, the GOP 2012, I mean, these are topics that are emerging in my social graph. And I think this is the way that Twitter needs to be viewed. I don't care about global, I care about my own information. And the other thing, when you're looking over on the right side column, that's just data. That's not actionable information. That's just data. That's just a stream of knowledge, of ideas, and some of them are useful and some of them just aren't. Now let me show you guys some of the more fun things that we've got in here. So for every tweet, we've got some of the basic actions. We've got the retweet, reply, quote, and these all work. So I can go ahead and say, you know, thanks, buddy. Go ahead, hit reply, boom, live tweeting. Directly from, whoa, all right, everybody's talking to me. So normally it's not so blue.
That's awesome.
But so, you know, we're able to build in really basic, you know, Twitter functionality so that you can do all of your standard tweet activities from directly in here. Now again, we've tried to accommodate and build in all of the functions that you'll find in a TweetDeck and a Hootsuite, so I can load up, you know, reply tos, I can, you know, see who's talking at me, a lot of really good information. I can do replies, retweets, I can favorite things, and favorite's actually a pretty helpful function. I'll show you why in a second. Then we've got a couple of things that are really WordPress specific. Bigger, we lose a lot of, yeah. We're not responsive. Which actually is an interesting part of the discussion because even at WordCamp San Francisco, they were saying the admin will become responsive in the next build or two. So as plugin developers, we're going to have to learn responsive design, and that's part of, you know, what we're going to be working on here with Dasher as well. So we've got a couple of features that are really unique to the fact that we can integrate into a WordPress site. The first one being recommend an article. And guys, I apologize, my computer's running like just a dog, so some of these pop-ups are taking a really long time. But, so what I can do is look at a tweet and say, okay, I want to recommend, this tweet is about a topic that I already have an article about. So I'm going to share that article really quickly with the person. I don't want to have to go dig up the link. I don't want to have to go figure out what I was writing about. I just want to be able to recommend an article. So I can say, you know, now this is me replying to myself, but, you know, I can say, hey, Dave, you might like the article I wrote on kayaking in Sunset Harbor. And it loads it loads in the title, it loads in the link, it loads in the hashtags, and it's an active reply. So it starts a thread, it starts a conversation, you can keep track of those things. So recommend an article is a really fun feature. And that gets us to what I think is really, Jeff Turner, I think, was about to lose his mind when we got into what Dasher can do now that you've baked in Twitter into WordPress. And what we've done is build a complete curation system directly into your WordPress administrative panel. Curation is basically why people are following you. As a social participant, people are following you because what you have to say is relevant to their life. Whether or not you're talking about it all the time, or whether or not every single joke you make they're going to get or they're going to want, people are striking out on the social web because they are choosing their friends and the people that they follow because they want to understand what you think is interesting. They want to understand what you think is relevant. We're taking that now, hopefully, to that next step in blogging by enabling curation directly out of the Twitter stream and building posts from tweets in a very responsible way. And I'll show you why. For one, we can do existing posts, or we can start brand new curated posts on the fly. So if you wanted to, if you just found a tweet and you're like, that is an inspirational tweet, this gives me an idea, I want to write an article, you can start an article right away. And it starts with that tweet and you can just dive right in. Or if you're a media blogger, maybe you want to write a more elaborate tweet on a topic or a more elaborate post, you can curate for as long as you want. A curated post is saved as a draft. So you can let this thing draft for a day, an hour, 10 minutes, or for as long as you'd like. So let's just say I rap about myself here. And because I've already created a post, I've been curating this meetup as we've been meeting. I've been watching the Twitter stream, the things that I find interesting, I snag and I say, okay, I want to curate that. I'll add a little bit of commentary, I'll pepper in my own thoughts, and carry on. So I'm just gonna say, hi, me. Now, down below, you'll see we're doing a couple other pretty fun things. We've got tags and mentions, and those objects are actually being brought along from the tweet into the post. And I'll show you what this does on the other side of the save. So, from here, I'm going to get out of the social home. I'm going to go take a look at this post that I'm working on. So, and Anton, I didn't know your...
He doesn't either.
Yeah.
That's not you?
Yeah, it's him. No, it's him.
Yeah,
I dug it up.
anything, yeah.
Is Dasher on Twitter?
Daster is not, no, not right now. Daster
Register that real quick.
Yeah. No, there actually is a Daster, and it's one of those, it's one of those domains or name squatters.
Yeah, 0 followers and 0
It's
tweets.
like Susan Anthony, no tweets, no friends, does nothing, but her name's Daster, so thank you.
Like Anton.
Yeah, right. That's really not you?
No, that's him.
Oh, it's me. All right.
He's just got 0 followers.
Yeah.
I'm following the 0.
It's like that South Park episode.
Yeah. You. Oh. So what you can see is that as I'm curating these tweets, they're coming in as live post content. I mean, when you post something to Twitter, you're giving your information away. It's licensed on Creative Commons. Anybody can reuse it. So what we're doing is we're repurposing your tweet as an element of a conversation, as an element of a blog post. And we think that's a really good way to start conversations, carry on conversations. Mostly it has to do with the fact that you can't have a good, decent fight at 140 characters at a time. If you really care about something, you want to extrapolate on it. You want to grab multiple sources. You want to grab different opinions. You can have entire debates from people's tweets, point, counterpoint, counterpoint. And you can do it all on your post. And you can own that content. That's a really big part of why we built Dasher, is this isn't another one of these third-party services that's, hey, this thing daily is out. Hey, the story is being put together, and I'm sending my traffic to somebody else who's eventually going to monetize it on their own. I've got the content. This is my site. I can put no ads on it. I can put all the ads I want on it. I can do whatever I want with it. I can archive it. I can excerpt it out. I can license it for other uses. Ownership's a big deal to me. I don't like third-party services. I don't like it when social networks make changes and then all of a sudden people lose their friends, or pictures from 1990 are published that you don't want people to see. It's just, if you own the site, if you own the content, if you own the blog posts, forget all these third-party services. Use the networks to engage and interact, but drive the traffic home. Drive the traffic. If you're in business, your website's where you're converting. You can't take a credit card on Twitter. I mean, unless you're really creative. But you can take a credit card on your website. You can do a lot of stuff on your website. You can lead capture. So drive your traffic back home. So that's sort of a rant on ownership. But, it really does. It irks me every time that I see these people who are sending traffic to these third-party story stitching curation websites. You're the one writing the content. You're the one creating the information. So own it. It's yours. There's a lot of really interesting ways that we can then, now that we've, and I'm going to get rid of me, now that we've integrated into a post, we've written a post, and just for the sake of argument, we're going to go get this thing out there. There is an option to publish to Twitter or not, so that if you've got something that you don't want to, publicize.
What you're showing us, is this a Dasher theme, or is it a plugin that you put
It's a plugin. Everything that you're seeing is a plugin, and almost nothing is done on the front end. This is all being done in the WordPress administrative panels. So from a user experience, you can change your theme as often as you want. You can add any kinds of other plugins. It's your WordPress site. Daster simply lives on your WordPress site as a social media client.
You can turn it on or off.
You can turn it on or off. You can, you know, make it dance. I mean, it is under GPL, so you can make modifications if you wanted more things to it. Yeah.
Hey, will you end up expanding it out to all the social networks like Facebook, where you can cast from one box and choose where you want it, the same information?
Yep, that's in our roadmap. I'll tell you why we went very seriously into Twitter as our really first major network. Sheer velocity. It's nothing. I mean, we've tested against Facebook. The average Facebook person posts once, maybe twice a day. Though you've got 750 million people out there, there's just not enough velocity open to be able to capture really good conversation cues. The other reason being is that Facebook's very particular on the way that it treats privacy with third-party apps. So rather than trying to butt heads with Facebook, plus also honestly Facebook changes the rules on a semi-monthly basis. So Twitter's been really consistent as an API partner. They've really helped us. You know, their documentation's good, their system's good, they're very stable for Twitter. So it's a very enjoyable way to start the curation exercise. And absolutely, our plan is to go, you know, sky's the limit. So there's another thing that we added here, which are post mentions. And this is something, again, that you can do once you bake Twitter into WordPress. You can start to do some fun stuff with the social sphere. And one of them that we've created is post mentions. And that allows you to talk about other people on your WordPress site and be able to kick back a tweet that says, hey, I'm talking about you. You're being blogged about. And this is, I think, a really good way to not only generate conversations, but it also actually changes the dynamic of how most of my blog posts get written. I'm much better now about caring about my citations or making sure that I've got the right people mentioned in my posts, because I want to make sure that not only am I giving credit to them on my site, and that's a really important part about being a responsible blogger, but I want to spark that conversation. I want to be able to use this tool to kick it off and say, hey, come on down. I'm writing about you. You're being talked about. And whether or not they show up, whether or not they care, is up to them. That's their choice. But I want to give them the option to know that, hey, I'm talking about you. And frankly, one of the most powerful ways to get attention in the blogging universe, in the social universe, in the world, is to make controversial things about people and call them out. Whether you're agreeing with them wholeheartedly, but you know, most blog articles that people really want to read are going to be controversial. You're going to say something like, no, Brandon Dove, awesome is the worst word ever. You know, it should be super excellent.
So that's what you're going to shout out. So your shout out is like the way Discus and Posterous shout out, not like Livefire does, which I hate the way they do it. They just say, we're talking about you, and you don't know what they're saying.
Let me show you how we do it. And so I'm not familiar with all of those services that you just described, but let me show you.
One actually has it sends the actual, a piece of what you're saying with the mention, and the other just says you're being mentioned. That's the difference.
We use the post title as our home. So let me go ahead and demonstrate to you. So I'm going to go ahead and just publish this post. Go to the internet. Go through the pipes.
I mean, you answered the question.
Yeah.
It's more like Livefire.
Okay.
They've got a lot of interesting things going on this back end. You have format types.
That's actually all being built out of the Woo theme. That's out of Crisp. So again, Daster's designed to work on any WordPress site. As long, you know, it's theme independent, it's plugin independent. We've been really strict with making sure our namespaces are tightly defined. So we haven't run into any plugin compatibility yet. You know, not that I'm going out of my way to try it, but so now if we go back, let's just go back real quick to Daster because I want to make sure that tweet went out.
It did.
Perfect. Hey, all right, working software. That's good. So we've got now OCWP Developer Day 815 edition, and all the tags. And here's the thing, I never wrote a tag. All those tags were imported from the tweets that I was curating. I never had to worry about writing anything. Now, let me show you guys what we've done next. Is our social queue. Now, right now, this is not a very good implementation, and we know it. This is an early version, so bear with us. We're going to refine. But what I've got is a queue that can do automated mention notifications. So instead of my Twitter account all of a sudden loading up with 50 tweets in 1 second saying, hey, I was talking about you, I was talking about you, I was talking about you. Now what we've got is they're on a delay. Right now it's set to 15 minutes. We've actually got it where we can detect your Twitter regularity, and we'll just adjust your queue time to whatever your standard, daily interval of tweets is. So if you tweet 5 times a day, Dasher won't push out more than 5 tweets a day. Just because we want to make the Dasher experience synonymous with the human experience. We don't want to create an automated tool that just throws content out there. We want to make it so that your blogging and your Twitter followers, everybody's getting along with everybody, and then it all makes sense.
So when you say your frequency, you're saying your frequency, but you being the author of
right.
the post.
Hey Dave Cole. Yeah,
Gotcha.
Twitter account at Hey Dave Cole.
Gotcha.
So we've got a built-in scheduler, which is something that we're pretty happy about.
Do you have quiet times?
We don't have it yet. This is pre-release.
That would be, kind of a nice,
yeah, that,
I don't tweet between midnight and 6 a.m. or whatever.
absolutely. We want to do a lot of stuff when it comes to that level of intelligence. All right, so before the mob heads to the door, I want to show you one last fun set of features that we've built in here, because social is really also a product of relationships. And so what we've built in is some relationship management tools that are designed to help become a better social media participant, become a better blogger, and do interesting things in the social space. So I can, for instance, look at the people who I've recently taken a look at, and I can also see who's been talking about me.
Yeah.
So, let's pick on Linda here. And again, apologies that these pop-ups are taking so long. They've run a lot quicker on other machines and other places. But what we want to do is we want to be able to have really relevant and really targeted conversations with people. That's what really good networks are all about, is not just announcing, I'm constantly doing things, pay attention to me, but is in creating those conversation moments where you can say, all right, I'm interested in what you have to say. I'm a fan. All right, maybe we'll try again.
They're just being uncooperative.
Hey, and again, guys, I'm sorry that this is playing with fire here, man. You're gonna throw off my whole balance. Now everybody's looking at that.
Like they were looking at you.
Hey, we've got a pop-up. Sorry about that, guys. So we've got a really simple way of looking at people in the social space. Lists are a big deal. I think lists, everybody was jumping around about Google Circles, but frankly, Facebook and Twitter both have lists built into them, and they're the exact same thing, just without a flashing blue circle. So,
but you could drag them.
Lists are a really great way, again, to curate people and to curate thought leaders, people that influence what you do and what you want to listen for. Especially as bloggers, you should definitely have lists that match your blogging topics so that you can keep an eye on the people who are talking about the things that are relevant to you. So I can, for instance, add Kat, let's say, to friends. So I can drop her into one of my lists, and then I can go
Is that added into a Twitter list?
Yes,
Okay.
this is all baked into Twitter. No. This is all baked into Twitter. Every time that we do anything, we want to
So it's
make
reading your
it
Twitter
platform
lists.
agnostic. Yeah. So now I can go do a deep dive into her profile and get some really interesting information. So one of the things that we built, again, I'm all about information. Forget data, I'm all about information. So these are her 20 most recent, most engaged friends. These are the people that she's tweeting at with regularity. And this gives me a really good perspective about what she's talking about. Again, I'm all about my social profile. I'm all about, I want to know what's relevant to my friends. I want to know what's relevant to my social circle. So instead of just saying, hey, yeah, she talks and blogs to people, this is all about who is she engaging with. I can also find out what topics are relevant to her. So WordCamp San Francisco, what a surprise. Tacos, apparently, making the list. You know, WordCamp Orange County WordPress. Yes. So I think, you know, the moral of the story is that these are all the top trends that exist in her social profile. And that's really relevant. That's part of who she is. If I'm going to talk to her, I know this girl really likes WordCamps. You know, like, this is now knowledge. So that's turning data into information. If I just looked at her last 200 tweets, I'm not going to be able to garner a quick snap that says, wow, she really had a lot to say about WordCamp San Francisco. I can also build custom notifications for anybody that I want. So I can build a rule that says, hey, I know Kat is interested in WordCamps. Maybe every time that I write about a WordCamp, I should, you know, create a, or let's say OCWP. So now every time that I tag a post with OCWP, Kat will get a notification saying, hey, I know you're interested in OCWP, and you know, I've written a new article on it. Now, whether or not she accepts that tweet or even pays attention to that tweet, it doesn't really much matter to me.
Tweet or DM?
It's a tweet. Yeah. The Twitter's doing weird things with direct messages for third-party services, so we're doing everything as open notifications.
And one at a time.
One at a time. Everything that's automated out of Dasher always goes into the queue. So, and we also have a feature that we call a human hold. And human hold means that if you've got it enabled, human hold will not send another automated tweet until it detects a non-automated tweet on your own Twitter stream. So if you send out, if you load up your queue with 1,000 automated tweets, and it'll hold the next tweet until it detects, you know, either from a mobile device or from Dasher or from TweetDeck or Hootsuite or any other social service, until it sees you writing a tweet, being an active participant, it'll hold. It'll say, okay, don't publish anything, hang on. And again, that's trying to build humanization, you know, respect for the social network, respect for the fact that we're not trying to have, you know, my computer talk to your computer. I'm not interested in my copy of Dasher talking to your copy of Dasher. I'm interested in, you know, I want to talk to Kat. I want to talk to Jeff. I want to talk to Steve. And I don't, no, probably not. and if I did, I'd just call Kelly in. You know, so that's another area where we're trying to really pay attention to how people use social services, trying to really respect the nature of, you know, the social services, and I think we're on the right track. And of course, you know, I'd love to hear more feedback and more input on how we can make it a better, more human experience while allowing automation. Yeah.
Hey, I just had a question about, okay, so if you had, like, say you're a business and you have your website, all the WordPress and you have this content, but you had somebody that you hired that handles just your social media, maybe like your Twitter account, etc. Is there a law then that will allow them to get into just this part of the platform without giving access to your entire website?
That's a really good question. And the short answer is Dasher's actually going to come in 2 flavors. We've got Dasher Solo and Dasher Pro. Dasher Solo means that you get one Twitter account for the entire website. And that would be perfect for single party bloggers, or small businesses who wanted everybody who's working on the website to have access to the entire Twitter stream. Then beyond solo, what we've got is Dasher Pro. And Dasher Pro allows you to tie each WordPress user with a unique Twitter ID. So in that regard, yes, you could have a contributor to your website who maybe doesn't have access to all the administrative rights, but does have access to Dasher.
So wouldn't be able to see get into any of the rest of your panel, but would just come in just to.
She's asking about
Just like
user
a
roles.
contributor.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah, that would be a contributor, typically on WordPress user roles. And there's even some plugins that can give the plugin specific role management. So you could even in theory have a subscriber who would have access to Dasher in their own, just their own copy.
Yeah.
You're starting to push some envelopes in terms of if you don't trust them enough to be able to see inside at least the contributor level of your website, then you probably don't want them on your Twitter account. So yeah.
Well, just to be fair, like I work with a lot of clients that we just manage their social media.
Uh-huh.
So I don't have the hoods to their website because that's a whole other level of access. I just have the Twitter. So two different levels. So I'm
Yep.
just wondering if that's available. And I think you started to touch on my very next question about how you're going to monetize it. And I'm guessing that's the Light and Pro.
Yep. There's solo and pro. This is a 100% commercial theme. There is no free edition. This is, just air runs out of the but I can tell you guys, here's the really short answer. We're not in the business of building a plugin. We're building a business about a better solution to do blogging and social. Dasher's really the first line, and what you guys are seeing is like pre-release candidate 1. This is essentially prototype software that we've been working really hard on, but it's, we've still got a layer of refinement to go through. There's one more feature that I always forget, I always bring up last. It really is kind of my favorite feature. It was the essence of what we built Dasher upon, which is that WordPress tags can and should be synonymous with Twitter tags. And in doing that, what the argument that I've made is tagging is the categorization and an indexing process. That's why when Dasher curates tweets, it brings the tag in and treats them as WordPress tags. And when you publish tweets or when you publish posts, it tweets out the WordPress tags as hashtags. We're creating a synonymous language. Now, it doesn't always work perfectly, so we've got some filtering capabilities. For instance, when you write an article that has the tag Google or iTunes or Facebook, there's too much velocity on those words. And by velocity, I mean there's too much activity. You can't actually gather good discussions from those sorts of social conversations because, they're just happening too fast. Now, what I can tell you is that even from this last article, and that's one of the things that we do, is we inherently, every time that you publish an article, it gets dropped into the social stream. So we can now go ahead and see all of the searches that are, or all of the tweets that are coming out of Twitter that are tagged with the tags that I put in this post. So that means you don't have to worry about saving searches. You can just write content, and the social stream will figure out what you want to hear. So from there, I can now look at an entire, I can look at 50 of the latest tweets and say, okay, well, what's the latest going on here? Now, this is very heavy on WordPress. So let's say I want to drop the term WordPress from the discussion. Now I can just see a search that's based around Dasher and OCWP. So I can do some smart filtering to get towards the discussions that I'm actually looking for. I'm not interested in all of WordPress. That's too generic of a term. I just want to know Dasher and OCWP. If anybody's talking about those two things, you know what? I think you could definitely use this article, Alex Vasquez. Let's recommend an article. So this is exactly what Dasher's built to do, is he's having a conversation about the thing that I just wrote about. Now, he happens to be in the room, but most of the time, your audience won't be. If you just wrote an article about kayaking Sunset Harbor, you're probably sitting at home and you just got done kayaking for the day and you want to find other kayakers who might like your guide for, hey, you know, here's a great place to go kayaking. Here's who I went with. Here's my map for it. So I can go ahead and I can say, hey, Alex, you might like OCWP Developer Day. And I can go ahead and tweet that to him. And you should have a notification any second now. So that's really what the conversation is all about. It's about saying, hey, I've got an article that's relevant to the things that you're talking about. Come check it out. And it's on my site. I own it. They can show up. They can retweet it. And honestly, in our early testing, people are retweeting these posts because they're relevant. They're interesting. They're topical. People are coming to the blogs. And we've got a couple of test sites out. And people are coming to the pages and creating comments. The conversations are happening. The blog is more social. The content is more social. So thanks very much, guys. That's that.
Oh, I went to the PS button.
Everything you just saw, not actually WordPress.
It's only searching the people that you're connected to. So if we could do this manually, but if we went to look for hashtags, we'd get everybody on Twitter.
This is
But
everybody
you're
on
only
Twitter.
Oh, this is not your friends.
This is an open Twitter stream. Yeah. If you want to search
Because
through
you do the other thing.
if you want to search through your friends, we've got some more intelligence for that. Yeah.
All right, so let's search for hashtag pizza.
And thank you guys for not ignoring me and rushing for the pizza.
All right.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Pizza's here.
What was your discussion about?
All right, 10-minute break. 10-minute break. Have some pizza. Everybody need a beer?
Really?
Hey.
I know, right? Me
All right.
too. I almost did.
There it is. Oh, you drove all the way down today?
Are you off for the pizza break?
Yeah.
So
I did find out.
stayed on later. Staying on what was going on.
This doesn't start 7?
No, it starts at 6. Yeah,
I think someone's up. No, that's the
because we
men's.
like talk
Someone must be
forever
down
about,
there.
like, you know,
With
one
the
topic.
at least.
We sit here and try to figure out, you know, which crappy tablet that's out right now is going to break the thing he's talking about.
Oh, wow. Wow. I wanted to come for his demo, so I came at the right time. That's good. Is this still
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to be on. I don't want to be on.
See you, bud.
Audio.
Did you just come for the? Oh, you're standing.
No, I just came for the demo.
I didn't know this ran till.
Started.
Yeah, what I really like about it is I can write a post and then immediately send it. And that's most of the time you write it off. And you just walk away from your computer and go, yeah, you go, where's, who am I going to fire with? And now you get that immediate feedback. People are talking about what I'm talking about. Don't read my stuff. No.
So, I'm going to segue this perfectly. Watch this. Watch this. So here's what I'm helping Dave with. Excuse me, sir. Would you mind sitting down in the back? That's fine. Good job. So Dave came to us with this idea. He already had it pretty well coded and working, and asked us to get involved to make this commercially ready. Is that fair? Fair enough. Commercially ready and help him take this to market. So what I'm helping with specifically is making this plugin sort of ready for public consumption. And what Jeff's helping with is helping take this out to market and using his influence for getting this out into the social media sphere. But specifically what I'm doing is taking Dave's spaghetti type of code.
That's too nice.
Hope. And I'm forming it into classes. So that's actually specifically what I've been doing. So when Dave and I first started working together a couple months ago, I was really guiding him on best coding practices. And one of the first things we attacked was the JavaScript and kind of the way that was tied into the WordPress backend. From there, we've really gone through a whole cleanup process. My last step is really taking this and forming it into classes. So that's what I'm not really going to get into the code here, but that's what I've been working on this past week or two. Is literally forming this stuff into classes and organizing the code so that it's optimized, so that it's easy to digest, and everything's going to be in separate functions so that it's easier for us to sort of work on as a team. The way this segues into what Brandon and John are going to talk about is this is all under a Git repository. We've had this, one of the first things we did when Dave came to us is took his code, put it under a Git repo, so that we could work on this as a team, and we do truly work on this in a virtual environment using a Git repository. But now that I've broken it apart into classes, I didn't want to break or interrupt what Dave was working on. I wanted him to be able to still be able to work, so I branched the code. So I took we took our master branch of the Git repo, actually branched it into a branch called classes, which is what I'm working on. And I can work on a separate branch while Dave is still working on the master branch. So he's free to still make changes while I'm working on a branch of code, and we're both still working on the same code repository. Making sense? If not, then Brandon and John are going to explain it much better than I can. But it is a good segue because this is real world stuff, and this will help you. If you're working within a code repository on work on your own projects, especially if you're working with a team. We do the same stuff with our client sites. So Daily Caller, Pajamas Media, Adam Sandler. When we're working on those sites, we literally are, we'll have a master branch of code, and if they want us to work on what is a major feature that cannot disrupt the current site, we'll branch for that feature, work, and then merge that branch back into the master branch, so that we can kind of work on that in the background, and it's not visible to the public, and it doesn't disrupt anything. So that during that master branch, with that master branch, we can be making minor changes without upsetting what's going on in the branch version of the code. Who's lost?
Great. Perfect. All right, Brandon's lost, so let's let him speak next. All right. I'm going with this button. I'm like, all right. Okay. Everybody knows Brandon.
Actually, it's kind of like a two-part thing. One being like kind of code optimization, and the other being all the Git stuff. Is that working? Okay, actually, while we were talking, I actually just wrote a little short code that will get the most popular post from any blog on a network. So I just use this one for an example, but it pulls each one of these, like whatever the most popular post is on a like sub-blog based on comment count. So if we're interested in using that for the multi-site thing, we can use it. Okay. So first, I guess we'll talk about the Git Tower stuff. Does anybody not know what Git Tower is? Excellent. Okay, so Git Tower is essentially it's a graphical client for managing code repositories.
On the Mac.
On the Mac.
Yay!
So it makes, there's actually a couple other ones that are out there, but instead of using the command line to do this kind of stuff, you can drag and drop, and it lets you, for me, like I've got a bunch of repositories, so it lets me keep track of all this stuff. This is what you get when you come in. This is, does anybody, sorry, going back, does anybody not know what Git is? Okay, excellent. So Git's just basically a source code management system. It's Git, like I was gonna say stupid Git. Yeah, so it's it's an alternate to something like a subversion, which is another sort of outdated one. So what you can do is it doesn't just work for code. It's essentially a version control thing. So if you write, you know, a document, right? Actually, we can talk about WordPress. So if you write a post in WordPress, and you know you're writing and you want to save a draft, right? It will keep a copy of that draft in that state, and you can come back later and edit it, add some things, change some things, and as you come back, you know it will keep track of these different versions, so you can kind of flip back and forth between them, and you know it will allow you to see sort of historical information about that one file. So Git allows you to do that on a bunch of files all at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this button here. Can you guys see that? I'm going to create a local repository. And yeah, so I'll create a new folder, call it Git test. So that's where all of my content is going to be put in this folder.
You said you're going to create a local repository, so you mean on your system?
That's correct. Git is something that is, it works on your computer. It can also be on another server. Like you can have multiple, it's distributed, right? That's the term. You can have it on what?
Oh, I just wanted to add, not only does it keep track of revisions, but multiple people can work on the same project at the same time. So Brad and I will use this, and we'll both be working on the same side at the same time, and I'll put my stuff up there and he'll put his up there, and Git will evaluate both versions and kind of create the latest version based on what we both put up there.
Right.
What's that?
It's
It's not a race.
No, it's not a race.
No, it's not even close to a competition.
Burn those
And that's it, we decide who wrote better
That's actually
code.
very clever.
I'm always the
That's my awesome count.
This is American Idol of coding.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm basically creating this directory on my computer, and I just say okay, and here it's in my list here. So when I open this one up, there's nothing in it. There's no historical information. There's no files. There's no branches, tags, remotes, or stashes. But essentially, what that lets us do is here in this Git test folder. I'm going to go ahead and open it up in TextMate. I can create this new file. I'll just call it awesome.txt. And we'll give it some good content to start off with. In case you guys can't see that in the back.
Watch that awesome grow.
Can you make it larger?
Okay, so now when I come back to Git Tower, I see that, okay, I've got this new file here in the system. And it shows me when I click on it, okay, it's got some content in here. So there's this concept of, within Git, you have all the files that you're working on locally, and then you have whatever the latest committed version is. So whatever you approve, and you said, okay, this is going to be in the next commit. Whenever you get to a stopping point, it's like hitting save draft. It's basically like committing whatever you have in your repo. So in order to make this, to give us some history, we'll stage this. So I click the little checkbox that shows me that it's been added. And then I can give it a little message that says, awesome, of course.
But how do you use that normally?
What?
The message thing.
So the message, it gives you some context as far as what you're doing. So, for example, if I was working on a WordPress install and I added a plugin, right? For example, I add the plugin folder, and then when I come in here, there's going to be a list of files that say all these files have been added. Excuse me. So when I check that and say, okay, I added that plugin, right? So if you're working in a team environment like Jeff and I do, he can look back and go, oh, he added that plugin. That's great. So I've done that, and I go ahead and I click that the commit button and says, okay, here's what you commit. Perfect. Say, okay, that file disappears here because it's no longer different than the latest version. Right. So now if I go into history, I see, okay, it tags me as a user and says Brandon Dove added this file on this date, and here this green symbol basically says, okay, this is what I added to that file.
I got one quick question.
Yes.
So can you link these to specific deliverables in the project plan? And like tracking?
Yeah, there's a tool that Steve uses called Assembla, and it basically is a Git repository plus a project management tool, so you can tie things into certain deliverables that way. Not within this tool, but within Assembla.
But what we do is for Assembla, if we're working on a specific ticket, we'll have
Yeah.
that comment so we get the ticket ID, so we can track what we're working on.
So like for bug tracking and things like that.
And the program's called Assembla?
It's ASSEMBLA.
It's a
That's
website.
our website for project management.
Okay, so generally speaking, when you're working on a local version, you don't just want to work on like the master files, because if you screw something up, it's not as easy to go back. So Git has this idea of branching things. So I could say, okay, I want to create this test. Like I want to go and I want to add this feature to a plugin. In this case, I will go and I'm going to add a new local branch. I'm going to call it awesomer. I'm going to make this more awesome. I think that all the time. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, okay, I'm naming this so that I can keep the two things separate. So I'm calling this one the awesomer branch.
but it's based on this master branch. So it inherits the current state of the other branch and pulls all those files into this directory, which happens to be the same directory. It's just swapping out whatever you change. So now I've got these two branches. I've got the master branch, which is by where it indicates head. That means that's the one I'm currently working on, the head version that I'm working on. So when I come in here, I see a file that's awesome.txt. So now I can go into this other one and see, okay, well, both of these are on the exact same branch, right? Or they're at the same level. They're exactly the same. So when I come into this, I have to check out this branch, this awesomer branch, right? So now it's showing that I'm working on the head here. So I'm going to put in here awesome plus plus, right? I'm going to add some awesome to that. Yeah. So now in this awesomer branch, I have this new file, or the same file, but now it has different content. It's called awesome plus plus, right? So I'm going to say, okay, I want to check this in because I'm making it more awesome. So I'll commit that. So if I look at the history now, master is still back here at the initial state, but I've moved on and I've made this thing more awesome, right? I'm keeping track. Awesome. Okay. So there's going to come to a point in time where you've gone all this way and you've finished your feature, and now you want to say, okay, you want to push that back into your master branch because we need to get it out to the website, right? So what you need to do here is you need to merge. So I'm going to check out this master branch again, and it's going to say, if you're going to come back in here, okay, it's changed it back to what it was before, right? It does that automatically for you. It's not gone, it's showing you a different set of files. So now I'm going to take this awesomer branch, and I'm going to merge, I'm going to drag it right onto the master, drop it, and I'm going to say, okay, this is going to merge your awesomer branch into your master branch. So I say, okay. All right, so it's been merged, right? So I've changed that. Now it's awesome plus plus. Everything's awesome, right? Everything is more awesome. All right, this is where it's going to get crazy. All right. So now we're good. The website's up to the latest code, all that kind of stuff. And then I want to go back and I want to make it even more awesome, right? If that's even possible. Okay, so I'm going to check out this awesomer branch again. And I'm going to write this awesome function. Oh, that's not what it say. Okay. Right, I'm going to say, okay, right? So that's how I'm making it more awesome. Actually, it's awesome, but that's fine. So I've made this happen, right? I put in this function, but meanwhile there was a bug on the main code, right? And so I have to check out that branch really quick because I haven't finished this yet. And oh, I have to check that. So I've checked this piece of code in
on the awesomer branch.
On the awesomer branch. So I'm committing it on the awesomer branch, which puts it. We look historically. The awesomer branch is now ahead of the master. But there's a bug, right? I forgot a semicolon or something. So I have to quick check out the master branch, and I have to go, oh, well, some of the stuff's missing, but I got to put that semicolon in there, right? So I save it. Okay. Now this file has changed from what my awesomer branch is, right? So so now we have this interesting situation where master is here, but if I look at, if I check out the awesomer branch, well, they both think they're ahead of each other, right? So now when I go to actually merge my new code in, it's going to give me an error. Hopefully. Okay, so they can't merge all the changes because there's some things that need to be resolved to kind of make them work together. So I say, okay, this is going to be scary. But, okay, Now I've got some crazy code in here that I need to sort of resolve in order for me to check in this new code. So I see right here, here's where I'm at right now in the current branch. I'm at this awesome plus plus with a semicolon. Okay. But in this awesomer branch, which is indicated here between these other two sections, I got this new code. I said, well, okay, in order to make this work on both ones, I need to kind of merge in that change, right? And I'm going to get rid of all this other stuff. Okay, so I'm going to save that, which is a combination of the two things. And I'm going to go in and say, okay, it looks good. And I'm going to merge it. I say, okay, so what it's telling me here is it says, okay, there were conflicts in the awesome.txt file, and I've gone and manually made them the same. I've merged that code because Git will often be able to merge things for you, but if two different branches are dealing with the same bit of, like the same line of code, it doesn't know which one you want to be better, right? It doesn't know which one you want to take. So I say okay, and then we have this interesting example, like the history has changed where more awesome sort of went out and ahead of the regular master, and then everything kind of came back to the front end. So now both branches, as soon as I check this out.
So you merged into master, yeah?
Yeah, I merged. Okay, so because I haven't pulled in from the master. So there's two separate states, right? So I have to go and then finally merge back into awesomer to bring them both to the same state. So did I like totally lose everybody right there? You guys see it? Anybody? So essentially I brought both, I diverged into a separate branch, changed some things here, but then I had to change something here, right? So this was ahead technically on the main branch, and so I had to bring them both back together at the top, which I did, and then I have to make sure that both branches are all synced back up together, so that's why I have to move back and forth. Are there any questions?
Yeah, so you're doing this all local right now.
Yes.
Your local repository. Now you want to sync with Jeff in the work that he's doing. So.
Okay. Okay, so let me see here. I actually have to. Oh, yeah, okay. So actually, we'll work on a project that we're working on anyways. So for this project that we're working on, both Jeff and I are working on it. So you'll see here on the right-hand side, like the author, it actually changes based on who's doing what commits. But you can see some history. The way that this works with remote teams is there's a third-party sort of server that's sitting out there. In this case, we're using a service called Beanstalk, which there's like Beanstalk, you can use Assembly, or Assembler, sorry, GitHub, they all kind of do similar things. But for this one,
beanstockapp.com.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got this project open, and I'll go ahead and make a change. So don't break anything. So Jeff mostly in this project, Jeff is working mostly on the themes folder, and I'm working mostly on the plugins folder. So Git is actually smart enough to figure out, and we don't have to do any crazy merges. But what we always do is, to make sure that I'm working on the latest set of files, I'll take this master from the remote, which is Beanstalk, and I'll pull it and bring it into my local stuff.
I didn't know you could drag this code.
Really?
Yes, that's awesome.
And if you
That's awesome plus plus.
if you double click, you check out, and if you drag to branches, you create a new branch.
See, everybody learns. Okay, so it's saying, okay, you're already up to date, so nothing was needed to come down. It's showing me all these files because there's no changes, that I have no local changes. So I'm gonna go in there and put in something. Okay, so I will, and it will recognize any change. So if I get rid of a tab or if I add an line return, it will put that in. So I added, I know you can't really see that, but so I added a comment at the bottom called added to PWP. As soon as I save that, it's saying, okay, you've got to change in this file, right? So here's what it used to be. It just was require once, and now it's require once, and there's a couple lines and a comment. So I'm gonna say, okay.
Just to be clear, Brandon, you changed that local, right?
The what?
You changed
I
that
changed
under
this locally,
local.
yes. So I'm working here on the local version. Let's say added. So now I'll commit that, and it's showing me here. I have one commit that has not been pushed live to the server, right? So that's what this is. So I'm currently ahead of what the server's head is, and it's telling me some information when I hover over it. So in order to push that to the live server instead of just doing everything locally, I just drag that onto the master. It pushes, tells me, okay, here's what you're pushing. Goes through and says, okay, I'm pushing all the data there. And it says, okay, there's a problem because.
Sorry,
So okay, so now I've got a problem. So, okay, thanks.
Try to make it more realistic.
So I've got a problem. I've got a problem because Jeff has changed something in probably the same file and maybe even the same line that I've done. So just like I did with two different branches locally, it's almost the same thing. So I pull this one down, and it's probably going to give me an error.
No, it's different.
Okay. So it's pulling down all the objects, saying, okay, here's what's changing. Okay, so it said it changed the style sheet thing. So now I've got two commits because when there's no merge conflicts, so when I'm not editing the same line that Jeff is, Git's smart enough to say, okay, pull that stuff in and make that change, but not affect anything that I'm doing. So it automatically actually did this merge for me. So Jeff created this sample commit right here, which was after I had already committed my code, right? So then I had to pull it down, and it automatically creates this merge, the merge commit for you. So now it shows you, okay, now we have two commits that we need to push. So if I take that, now that I've resolved all the conflicts, I should be able to just push that straight to the remote.
And if Jeff hasn't changed something while you're doing that.
Yes.
Real world examples. You know, Jeff pushes something, completely hoses the code, and you just pulled it.
Okay.
And you go back.
Okay. So each one of basically what Git does is it stores like a really long hash of all the content that's actually in that directory. So right here it's like a SHA hash, whatever. But this is a unique symbol that we can look to be different on every single one of these commits, because it basically looks inside all of the different files and rolls all the content up and spits that out. So Jeff just screwed that up. So so I can say, okay, I don't want that, so I can go and I can actually check out a specific commit by I think you have to check it out into a separate branch or something. So I can create a branch from a specific commit. So if I know this is the last good state, I can create this branch. I'm gonna call it saved, right? And it's gonna be based on that specific commit. I'll say okay, and now I've got this saved one, and it's safely behind all that kind of stuff. And then what I can do is then I can make whatever change I'm making here, which is, so I have to check this one out. So I check out this branch. Now you're gonna see, okay, everything's back to how it was before. Nothing's committed, so I can make whatever change I was making. Come back here. So I'll commit that. Check out the master branch. And then, so it's saying there's unmerged files that need to be resolved. It'll show me the files. Okay, so here's the two ones that I had changed, not Jeff's. I want this one. I'll save that. Merge it. It'll show me what was part of that merge. Now I've got these two local ones, and you can see this gets kind of crazy. So it basically bypassed this little checkout that happened before, and now I basically bypassed all of Jeff's crappy code, and then I can then save everything there, and we'll push it back up to the server.
Is any of this stuff paid? This Beanstalk app or GitTower?
So GitTower is a paid plugin. There's another one I just saw today. What was it?
You said paid plugin.
Oh, sorry. It's a desktop app, right? GitHub is free. It's not private though. It's free, so you can have any number of public repositories you want. If you want a private one, like it starts at like $7 a month for like up to 3 private ones and 1 shared committer. So that's basically what Jeff and I use. So $7 a month. Beanstalk app is another sort of paid service, and same with Assemble. They're all.
Beanstalk
Assemble gets expensive.
Yeah.
Beanstalk is also free for 1 user and 1 project.
Okay.
And then it's a similar thing.
There's a ton of these out there. The reason why we use GitHub, and actually I really like Beanstalk after using it. It will actually, if I commit, actually been doing it while I've been doing this, but every time I commit something and push it to the server, it actually has an option for you to FTP that code straight to a server, any number of servers really. So it will actually take care of the deployment of that code too. So I don't have to then go to the server and then pull everything down.
So you prefer Beanstalk over GitHub?
I mean, honestly, we actually one of our friends built a plugin for us called GiddyUp that we run. It's a WordPress plugin that it actually talks to GitHub's webhooks, and it will automatically pull the code down. So
Tower's $60.
Yeah, Tower's awesome. There's another
a free 30-day trial.
Yes, but there's a free one that I just saw.
Anything for PC?
One time.
Yeah, one time. It's
So
I
while
don't
you
know
look
if
for
there
that,
PC ones, but I'm sure there are.
For PC, SmartKit.
SmartKit.
SmartKit's what we use.
And that's $60.
SmartKit. 60 for SmartKit?
Mm-hmm.
SmartKit's not nearly as user-friendly as Tower, but then again, it's a PC app.
There's also, I think Git has there's like XGit or GitX or something like that. That I think they have a PC version of that or something.
Well, right. Okay, that's a great question. Let me ask you, Brandon, so you can tell your Windows PC.
Brandon, the question was, can you use this just locally, or does it require something like Beanstalk?
Yeah, so you can use it for anything. I mean, I was just telling a designer today, you can use it for Photoshop. Like, if you have a Photoshop file in a folder and you want to, instead of naming it V1, V2, V3, V50 like designers like to do, you can have one Photoshop file and version control it, and it's a binary file, but it will remember all the different versions. So if you were like, crap, I deleted that layer, you can go back to that other version and pull that layer out, and you have it back. So it works for anything. I met a guy, and his name's Boone. Actually, he works on the BuddyPress project, and he uses Git for everything. He was writing his dissertation on it, like with it. So every version of his dissertation, like, anything. It can track anything, and you can use it locally or remotely or whatever.
We use it for Flash. We use it for iOS.
Yeah,
apps. We
everything.
Use it for everything. It's a
Yeah.
For Windows, the one that's really popular, I don't use it, is Tortoise.
Tortoise SVN.
Yeah. But it does Git too.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
What's the difference with SVN and Git? Seems like the same.
It's a different.
No.
They're both code repositories. SVN is a little bit older, and it is frankly showing its age a little bit. SVN, if you're messing around with the file system, it deposits an SVN file in every single directory within your directory structure, where Git is all stored in one spot. There's another one called Mercurial, similar to Git. Those are the three.
And if you're just interested in getting started with it, on OS X now, GitHub has a free client that only interfaces with GitHub.
I didn't like it when I tried it.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I like Tower, but
there was one I was just looking at today.
The other popular one on OS X is called SourceTree. I like Tower better, but lots of people love SourceTree.
Does anybody here use any of these programs to link deliverables to project plans?
Yeah, I mean, Zeke uses Assembler to do that. Yeah.
Assembler is like Git plus Basecamp.
Yeah, that's why we chose Assembler, because it's everything in one package. We got all of our messages, bug tracking system, ticketing, and Git all in one big package.
Assembler is a monthly.
Yeah, Assembler, we actually have the maximum one. I think we pay $250 a month for Assembler, but we've got a lot of projects and a lot of users on it. You can get Assembler. I think it starts. I think we were just looking at $9 a month. It starts at. The first group
or free.
The first group one is $50. You can actually go up and sign up for an Assembler account for free. The way Assembler works is everything actually works off of my Assembler account. So everybody that uses Assembler that maintains their own account, they subscribe to my Assembler spaces. That's how Assembler.
It's similar to GitHub too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything cheaper that has like a Basecamp plus?
Assembler starts at $9 a month.
That's public with, or that's with private projects. Two people.
There's service that has
Oh, that's only $9 a month.
There's a service that has Plainlift that has a premium model on Podio.com, and you can actually assemble the tools that you intend to work with. So it actually does have a Git repository version control to it, and as well as project management.
That's actually the way Assembler works as well. For each project, you assemble the tabs that you want. So you can only have Git and messaging on one if you want it, and then you can add tickets. It does Git and SVN as well, all in one.
One thing
It's free for up to 5 users for intending
Podio.
Podio is, yeah.
And what if you can do Git and Coda?
Yes.
You can.
Yeah, actually Tower works with Coda.
Tower has a plugin.
But there's with GitHub also they have these things called webhooks. So basically you can set it up so that your Basecamp site is tied to a GitHub account. So whenever you make a commit, it will like send posts back and forth.
So it's already done. So why don't we go to the thing here, John? Can we get through that in about 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quick. Yeah, it's really quick.
Any other questions?
The one other Git repo service I'd mention is CodePlane. There's a couple other new startup Git repos, but search for it.
You gonna bring your computer up here?
Yeah.
Thanks, Brad. Choose a button.
That was not helpful.
Wow.
That was easy.
Totally.
It wasn't easy though either.
Oh, yeah, I don't-
We don't have a, that was difficult.
Yeah, that kind of was hard.
That was hard.
That was Peter.
If I do this right, I'm gonna end up back in get my little stuff.
So we're gonna try to wrap this up in about 15 minutes. I know this is a long night, but it's good. I think we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we're all happy. Okay, so let's run a site, and the gist of what I wanted to show you guys is that I ran into a problem with some code I was writing. Basically, I didn't know how to write what I wanted to write, but I could write something that kind of worked. And this is where having a community like this really comes into play, where you can ask people for help. But one of the things that is important is you ask them for help in a concise way. So I'd love for the developer days to kind of be focused around some of this, where you can show them the code and say, hey, I wrote some code. I bet it could be better. How could it be better? And get a little bit of feedback. So what Steve introduced the second half with was, reviewing entire things, and that's, obviously paid work. And maybe this is paid work, but this is also like, hey buddy, can you help me out for 5 minutes? So what I wanted to show you was this site has a slideshow on the homepage that pulls from like about 40 images. And where those images actually come from are a custom post type. I'm just showing you this so you kind of understand what the problem was, so you can see the code would kind of make sense. In each custom post type, there's 4 images or 6 images. It varies depending on the post. And I'm going to show you the back end really quick so you can see what that looks like. Again, just so it helps the code make sense.
So John, you weren't using featured images. These are actually
Correct, because I have anywhere from.
What was the password? What password program are you using?
1Password.
That's one password.
That's 1Password.
Mine
It
doesn't
is
look like that on Chrome.
the coolest thing ever.
Actually, the.
I'll come back to it in a second.
All right.
Yeah, LastPass. But if you look at these places, so I created a custom post type called places. I have all these properties. Each property, as I said, has anywhere from 4 to 8 images attached to it. That's why I'm not using featured images, is because I need multiple images. And there's other ways of doing it, but I ended up, because I was doing custom post types, I attached them all in a custom meta box as custom fields. So sometimes I have 5, sometimes I have 8, sometimes I only have 4. Anyway, getting to the code, what I want to show you is what I wrote, because I'm not really good with loops that iterate. So I ended up writing this, which we'll zoom in on, that says this code works, but it's ugly. So what I'm doing is I'm using a Genesis function to pull in the custom field. And what I'm doing is I'm pulling in, because I know what the custom fields are, image 1, image 2, image 3, image 4, image 5, image 6, image 7, 8. And I was going to take this and then basically write a for loop with I equals I plus 1, iterate through it. But I decided to ask Brandon for some help because I would spend hours on that probably and figure it out, but it would take a long time. So I went to Brandon and said, hey, how would you write this? And what Brandon came up with to do the exact same thing was this. That's it. Right? Load it up.
That is awesome.
Okay, so this is way awesome because this is Brandon, right? So I went from, I'll blow this up so everybody can see it. Is that big enough for everybody can see it? So I went from all this garbage, which worked just fine. This worked. And each one checks if there isn't an image, then don't output. But if it's not empty, then output it. So this way, whether a custom field is empty or not, it doesn't blow up, right? But then I'm going to have Brandon explain to everybody how cool this is and what he used, because he's basically using a for each loop and indexing it. So do you want to say what that actually is, what string position is, and the key?
So
instead of just getting a single, basically what John was doing was getting a single custom field that function is using. So there's two ways to get a custom field in WordPress. There's getting a single one, or getting every custom field that's attached to a post. So that's what this function is here, get post custom. It's a built-in WordPress function. All you have to do is pass it the post ID. In this function, I made sure that post was global, and then we got this, and basically what images returns is an array, right? So I loop through that array with this for each statement. It says for each images has the key and the value, because it indexes all of the custom fields as I think it's just a numbered index. So actually no, it's the actual index is the name of the custom field. So what I'm doing is I said check to see if li-image or li_image dash is within the key. And if it's not, and if it is, and it's not empty, then print out the image, right? So instead of having to write each single one separately, we just write this little PHP and WordPress function that loops through all that stuff.
And then echoes it out and has pulled value 0 into the end of it so that it gets the source. So anyway, the reason I wanted to show this and why I was really excited about this is that this is kind of a nice little chunk of code. I'd love it if the development group here, the Meetup group, kind of would look at little bits and pieces of code like this every once in a while and have, even if it's just real time here and saying, hey, I wrote this stuff, how would somebody write it better? That'd be a really cool thing. Cool. Because this was what, 4 or 5 minutes tops over Skype. So, overseas.
Did you charge that?
I offered to pay him by fermented wheat. Anyway, that's it. One thing just to wrap it up, to get a tower. So I thought I'd show you. This is the commit before and after. So if you go back and look, you can actually see it's in red, a little dip. This is all my crappy code. And then this is all of the awesomer code in green. So it's all in tower. That's a cool way to work. That's it. I got
All right. We'll wrap up on one more thing, since we talk a lot about Assembla and project management sites, and since we have Kelly here, I'm going to put her on the spot for a second. You love it and you know it. Sure you do.
Is it your home screen? What?
Not yet. I want to just give you a quick tour of Assembla. I know this isn't really WordPress related, but here's why we chose this project management system. And we've used several of them. We used Basecamp. We used a project site called GoPlan. We used Beanstalk for a while. We picked Assembla because it's everything wrapped into one. But it's turned out it's had a lot of other benefits besides just a single site for all of our needs. One of them is what's called the card wall. If you were at WordCamp San Diego, you saw Kelly's presentation. She did talk a lot about this. I am no expert in agile working methodology, but and I resist it every single day. But this is how it works. Jump in here at any time, or let me just flail.
Lovely.
This is a way of viewing tickets inside of Assembla. So there's a couple different views when it comes to tickets, but as our clients are submitting tickets, and tickets can be bugs or feature suggestions, that's what we classify as a ticket. You can this way of viewing it is what we've set as the default for this particular project. It's called the card wall. So these tickets go into 3 columns. These are new tickets as they come in, and what we do is we say, okay, let's give these tickets a priority.
let's say that they're accepted, meaning we're working on them, and we actually move these tickets through this system as they're getting worked on. So this gives the clients a quick view, a quick snapshot of theoretically what's being worked on at any given time. So if I wanted to, I'm going to go ahead and do this live, even though it's a live site, I probably shouldn't be, but you know, let's say this new ticket came in, it was assigned to me, it wasn't given a priority. I can take this, I'm not actually going to let this go, but I can take it and drag it over to accepted, and if I move it into these different color codes are levels of priority, highest, high, normal. If I actually drag it to the top, the ticket will set itself to accepted and will give itself a priority based on where I've dropped it into the card wall. So that will automatically basically it will send a notification out to the client saying, okay, Zeke has accepted this ticket. This is where they've marked it as a priority, and the client can do this as well. So if I did this incorrectly, or if it doesn't line up with the client's expectation, they can actually bump it up in priority, and that we all have sort of public access to this card wall. As I finish it, I'll pop it out of accepted into test, and then I'll assign it to who needs to test it within the organization.
That's
Yeah.
really awesome. So
The client can only see their own stuff.
Client see, yeah, everybody sees all.
Everybody sees all the other clients?
No. The client,
That's what I mean.
no. This space is specifically for the daily caller that we're looking at right now. There's one client per space.
And if the client moves it up, you have to accept it again, correct?
No, they'll move it up within this column. It's already, I've basically already said, okay, it's accepted. We're working on this now. We realize this is something that we need to pull out of new, and we need to pay attention to this. They'll move it basically within this.
Yeah,
within
the
this space.
client gets to move within their column. They don't get to change columns.
Yep. Did I do that justice? Okay. So this is very cool and really does lend itself to the agile way of thinking and the agile methodology. And again, the client gets a real quick snapshot of what's being worked on. We've actually now converted 3 clients over to this internally. So Daily Caller was so impressed with this. This is actually their space. This is their assembler space that they're paying for now. So we were using ours originally. They actually have 2 other external developers that they deal with. It's not just us. So they brought on other developers for different types of tasks. They adopted this as their own project management system, and we moved all of our tickets into their space. So all of the different developers are working within the same ticketing space, and they use this internally as their project management system. 2 of our other clients have done the same thing, which is great. And again, that's how Assembler works. So anybody can start a space, and anybody can subscribe to that space.
Can you show the messages tab? Or the part that's like Basecamp?
Sure. There probably aren't a lot of messages here on this space. Yeah, these are mostly just tracking logins. Let me show you one that has a better. What's something that has a better messaging discussion? Maybe.
The Realty would. Jack and Jill would.
Okay. So let me tell you how we use messages now. Okay. We find that, and I actually said this on Friday in my talk at WordCamp. Email is a horrible form of communication when it comes to dealing with projects. It is the worst form of communication because you'll forget to CC somebody will read an email thread. What we're doing now is we're forcing all discussions that are around a project to go through messaging. This is where you have to talk about it, and if you don't, we purposely ignore it, or we'll take it and we'll move it into Assembler. That way, everybody has a record. It's a centralized communication. They can see what's going on. So these are, as we're talking about specific parts of a project, obstacles is a good one. This is how we use messaging. It works very much like a comment stream. That's not a great example. Excuse me.
Well, the twin yourself, we went back and forth a couple times. Would have been the design, probably.
So this works very much like a comment stream. So somebody will post a topic, and people can reply to it, and it saves the whole thread in a centralized form where anybody can go and access it. As you're posting messages or replies, you can actually choose, I want this to notify the whole group, or I only want this to notify certain people. So that can happen. So even though I'm replying to messages, I don't have to bother everybody if I don't want to. I can say, okay, this just applies to Kelly and Jack, and they'll get a notification, but
I'm still able to access this by going back up here and looking at any time.
Can you break it out in different categories? If you have 40 different categories of deliverables, can you break it out by?
For tickets or messages,
let's say you're building something, right? It's broken up in maybe 4 parts.
there's several different ways to do it. You can see we have components here, so each of the different parts of the project is broken out. So our ticketing system is all broken out specific to the project, and those are specific to the activities that we're building for that project.
Do they show a completion?
Where's the, yeah, it does show completion. I don't know that I have any good examples of that.
You can look at the LA Luxury would have like completed milestones. Realty.com would have completed milestones. Realty.com I have to
Actual
rework,
completed
but
milestones?
actual completed milestones.
Oh, what concept?
Realty I have to rearrange because we just
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of level of completion by components, right?
That's by milestone.
By milestone. Okay. So that's a project that's actually organized by milestone amount of completion. So yeah, there's once you start getting into Assembler, it's got more than you'll ever use, and you start to figure out, you know, how to use some of these things. It really is a very complete project management system. And I know I sound like an Assembler cheerleader. These guys will not give me a kickback. I bet.
I have no affiliate.
Like I told you, you can build your spaces as you go. So because I'm an admin, because this is my space. What's that?
Is that Chuck Norris?
Where?
It said security and it looks like Chuck Norris.
I have no idea. So under admin, I literally just pick the parts of the project management tools that I want, and I add them over here to the project, and that's what builds the tabs across the top. So each space is different depending on what tools I need for that space. If I want a Git repository, I just drag it in. If I want SVN, I drag it in. You can have both. If I want messages, if I want a wiki, you just drag those tabs in, and you're off and running. It's really easy to use.
You drag it from left to right?
Actually,
you
just
click on the
add
add button.
You click the little add button. So if I wanted an SVN on this, I don't know why I would, but I'd click add and then I've got, now look, I've already got it. There's source get and there's source SVN.
The client obviously does not have access to the Git part where you're
They do.
passing code
My
back and forth.
my clients do.
You
Yeah.
Can they mess with it?
If I give them access to do that, yeah. That's all a user privilege thing. But yeah, I give them all open access to whatever code we're writing.
And even as a watcher, they could see in the stream the code commits. So, like the SAP is a good example of not only custom fields and tickets,
It's
but
a good example of how not to name your code commit.
yeah. We'll talk to them about that. But they can see the entire stream of what's happened. So they see code commits, they see ticket changes in there.
So they see this.
Yeah, look at the stream. Yeah. So they see everything that we're doing, and anytime we make a change.
But these streams are really handy. At top level, I see a stream of all of my spaces in one long stream. So they all get gathered. Any space I'm part of, I see it in a stream, and I can go and look and see what's going on at any given time. If I drill down into a space, here's the stream that's specific to that space.
And this is one that has two repos. We have the server and the iOS.
Yep. Yep. Actually, this is two Git repositories attached to the same space. So there's a source Git, and we've actually named this one source iPad because we've got two projects that are associated, or two things that are associated with this product. We've got a WordPress site and an iPad source code repository. So you can actually add as many Git repos as you want to one space.
And this
So
one
not
has
just limited to one.
custom fields on the tickets.
Custom fields on the tickets? Meaning? What does that mean?
In all fairness, Steve doesn't really work on this project. It's different developers. But if you make a new ticket, there are fields that we added that are type.
Oh.
So this isn't by default, but we've made it a required field on this, whether you're asking for a bug, if it's feature. We have clients leaving feedback through the app, and they all go into Assembler. If it's a design need, if someone's just asking a question, if they need a document. So we've made type a required field on all tickets. And then we have custom completions. So if you open an existing ticket, we've edited our workflow. Let me just pop any of those open. Scroll on down. So there are different ways to close, to say whether it's invalid, whether it's fixed, if it's a duplicate. Fields that we're going to add next to this would be version fixed, so that when Graham closes something, he'll make a note that says version fixed, 1.2, 1.3, 1. Whatever it is, so that I know what version it's going to be in, because this one we were doing builds every day for like 2 weeks. So there's lots of custom fields and other things you can do with this to make it fit your workflow. And then you can change all the views, and this is the one with all the feedback from clients from the app. If you go to the ticket list, there should be a filter.
Oh, that's right.
So I made a custom filter.
So we're actually using this inside of the iPad app itself. We've got a little button that says we want your feedback, because it's an internal iPad app that we're building, and that feedback actually sends tickets into Assembla. They all get filtered. What's this? It's here.
Those are 2 filters that I made just for this project. So feedback tickets are only tickets that are entered from the app, and then the other one is a view that my team requested, which is sorting the tickets by user, including the status and the type and the milestone that it belongs to, so that they see everything all in one. So I can change their view as well. Like I can make this a default view for tickets, because they want to know what's a bug, what's a feature in my priority list, what do I really need to work on. So I sort all that out and put it in their default view.
So Kelly lives in Assembla all day. But yeah, this is the most powerful project management website I've ever found. So I highly recommend it. Questions?
Does it have any sort of project timers?
Project timers in what sense?
So I'm working on something. I want to know how long I spent working on the theme versus the back end.
Each ticket, as you complete it, you can enter the amount of time spent, or as you update it, you can enter the amount of time spent. It'll track all the time. And you can also enter, I don't have a time tab on this one, but at any point I can enter my time for a particular task, or just free form. So it'll track all of my time and the team's time as well. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, so each ticket, as I complete something, by the way, here's my tickets for all projects in one view. So if I'm at the top level, I'm actually seeing every single project and all of my tickets in one single view.
So it doesn't have a self timer then? Like you can like start and stop?
No.
No, I know there's some for Basecamp that they're actual apps. There may be some for Assembla. I've never found them. There's an Assembla iPhone app, the native app, where I can actually view these tickets and filter them. It's not great, but I haven't seen the timers for that.
Is there an Android app?
I don't know. But you can see right here, there's my entry for hours worked, Jeff. So as I'm completing tickets or just entering a comment, I'll put in, I worked, half an hour, and it'll tally it up at the end.
Can you track invoices?
I don't think there's anything with invoicing here.
FreshBooks has the time tracking and the invoicing. FreshBooks.
I don't think so.
I don't think I've ever seen any invoicing stuff in here.
But FreshBooks would be complementary to something like this if you just want to, if you're billing on it. Yeah.
What was that thing at the very bottom? Real quick. Oh, no.
Anyway, any questions? Look, I didn't even know it's got Mercurial too, so you can get SVN or Mercurial if you so choose. Anyway, yeah, we use this extensively. Every single project that I start, I just open up an Assembla space, just out of habit now. So when I started working on the OCWP site, I just opened up an Assembla space. That way I had a Git repo, and if I wanted to add later messaging, or we wanted to actually collaborate on stuff, we could do it here on Assembla. So yes.
So the stuff that Brandon was sharing with Tower, you could just basically push this to the Git server here?
The way Tower works is when you're working with a remote site, it requires an address. So GitHub, Beanstalk, they'll all have an address. It's right there. So there's my external address that I plug into Tower, and that's, remember how Brandon was showing the remote branch, the local branch and the remote branch? That's the remote branch.
Assembly just acts like a point.
Yeah. Yep.
So you still need GitHub with Assembly?
No, GitHub. This replaces GitHub and Beanstalk, or any of those sites. This is in replacement. Yeah. Before this, we were using GoPlan and Beanstalk together because they were complementary. This I got rid of both of those and got them put them in one.
And in one space, how many projects do you have to have?
We treat this as one space per project, but my account lets me do, I think, unlimited spaces or a couple hundred spaces, and then I don't know how many users. Like I said, I pay for the enterprise level account, so we've got a ton. But the accounts start, I think we were seeing, Linda was seeing it start at like $9.
Yeah.
$9 a month for one space and 3 users.
You said 7 about 20 minutes ago.
Did I?
You go to the start tab, you'll see the.
That's GitHub. What's that?
Go to the
Oh,
start.
9.
And then there's free for public at the bottom, if you want to play with it.
But keep in mind, your code's going to be publicly accessible. So, $9 a month was the starting one for one space and 3 users. That's what I was saying. If you're going to have more than one project, your starting price you get is the $49. That's the group pricing. Like I said, it's not cheap, but it is pretty powerful stuff.
Do you have your clients pay for it? Just like Chris, do you have your clients pay for it?
I don't. I just build it into my cost. Daily Caller, they are paying for this themselves, and a couple of the clients that have switched, they pay for their own space. But
they are paying for it. But
yes. So sure, they just don't know it.
Do clients find it usable? Is it easy for them to figure it out?
It depends on the client. Some clients love it and they'll go in here all day and they'll post messages, but a lot of clients just resist it. They like to use email, and then so we'll kind of help move everything over as it comes in. It really depends on the client because it can be a cultural shift.
Can you pull email into this? In other words, did they send you an email? Can you convert your email into this?
Not
Is there an
really,
email?
not really like you're asking.
Can you like forward an email into it? Like you can.
I just wouldn't recommend it because you're gonna end up with a lot of junk. So like I said, when we get something relevant to a project that doesn't come through Assembla, we'll take the email, take the body of the email, paste it in as a new ticket or a new conversation, and we'll kind of move it in manually as we need to.
then at that point, you can send, when you post a reply, let's say, you can notify the person who.
Well, what we do is what I'll do is if something comes in, I'll reply back to the person and say, hey, I think this is a perfect candidate for Assembla. I'm going to move it into Assembla, and when I create the new message, they'll get a notification anyway that the new message was created, so they know.
With a link and
Yeah. Anyway, I think we'll end there, and we'll have the general meetup in 2 weeks from tonight, and then developer day again in a month. So thank you everybody for coming. I know we covered a lot of ground. We were a little late tonight, but I think it was all good. So
Awesome.
and
Awesome. More awesome.
General meetings still at 7 or are you?
General meetings are at 7.